I still remember the night it all began. The air was thick with rain, the kind that makes the streets shimmer under streetlights and the wind bite through your jacket no matter how warm it is. I had been walking home from a late-night coffee run, my thoughts tangled around him. My crush, the boy I'd secretly adored for months. He had that effortless charm, the kind that made everyone around him laugh, and yet when he smiled at me, it felt like the world paused. I had dreamed about being closer to him, imagined endless what-ifs in my head, but never in my wildest dreams did I imagine the events that night. It started when I passed that old curiosity shop tucked between two narrow buildings. The kind of place you barely notice until it calls to you. And that night, it did. The sign flickered, Madame Lyra's oddities and curses. Something tugged at me, a mix of curiosity and recklessness. I stepped inside. The shop smelled like herbs and dust, with candles flickering in the shadows. Behind the counter sat an old woman, her eyes glinting with mischief, or maybe something darker. "You seek something different," she said, voice soft, but it carried weight. "A change, perhaps." I laughed nervously. Maybe. But nothing too weird, okay?" She tilted her head, a sly smile creeping across her face. "We all get what we ask for, sometimes more than we expect." I didn't take her seriously, but the moment she handed me a small, intricately carved charm and whispered, "Wear this when you see what you desire most. And remember, desire has consequences," I felt a shiver run down my spine. By the time I got home, the storm was gone, leaving streets wet and shiny, reflecting the city's lights. I laughed at myself for even entertaining the idea of magic, of curses. I tossed the charm onto my nightstand and crawled into bed, thinking nothing more of it. The next morning, the world felt off. I woke up in a haze, groggy, stretched my arms, and froze mid-motion. My reflection in the mirror wasn't mine. It was him. No, not exactly him, but someone identical to him. His face, his features, the way his hair fell just right over his forehead. I blinked repeatedly, certain it was a trick of the light, or a dream I hadn't fully woken from. My hands flew to my cheeks, tracing the smoothness, the sharp jawline, but softer somehow. My chest felt different. My body was. "Oh my God," I whispered, my voice high and trembling. Panic took over. I backed away, tripping over my blanket, heart hammering. This was impossible. I didn't even know what to call this. Transformation? Curse? Nightmare? Yet the reflection in the mirror stared back, identical to him, identical to my crush in every way imaginable. I felt a strange twinge of excitement mixed with terror. I didn't know what to do. Call someone? My parents? No, they'd think I was insane. I needed to hide, to understand. But as I looked closer, I realized the change was total. My features, my body, my voice. Even my scent felt different. And deep down, I knew it wasn't going away. The first days were chaos. I avoided everyone. My phone, my computer, even my own reflection became a source of anxiety. What if someone saw me? What if he, my crush, saw me like this? The thought made my stomach twist painfully. And yet, curiosity gnawed at me. I had to explore. I started experimenting in my room, testing the limits of this new body. I ran my fingers through my hair, marveling at its softness. I tried on clothes, his clothes. They fit oddly, hugging parts of me differently than before. I practiced walking, talking, even mimicking his expressions. It was eerie, but strangely exhilarating. I tried calling him once, my voice trembling, higher than usual. "Hey, it's me," I faltered, my words dying mid-sentence. He didn't pick up. Relief and disappointment collided in a confusing rush. Days passed, and I realized the curse wasn't just a prank, it was literal. I had become him, fully and completely. Every morning, the mirror reminded me of the impossible. Every time I spoke, I heard his voice. And yet, I still retained my memories, my thoughts, my emotions. I was trapped in his body, a living, breathing version of the boy I loved. I tried hiding it at school. I skipped classes, avoided his friends, and stayed home as much as possible. But appearances betray even the cleverest efforts. Teachers, classmates, everyone noticed something. Whispers followed me. Questions I couldn't answer. I felt isolated, embarrassed, and terrified that anyone would uncover the truth. And then came the first moment of dangerous temptation. I started experimenting, Not just with his appearance, but his life. His friends, his mannerisms, even his social interactions became mine to explore. I found myself laughing at jokes, chatting with people he knew, feeling a strange thrill as they accepted me, not knowing I wasn't him. At first, I justified it. I was learning, surviving. But deep down, guilt gnawed at me. This wasn't me, was it? Yet the mirror continued to show a face I had loved from afar. The face I now inhabited. And slowly, my curiosity turned to obsession. I experimented with his clothes in private. Shirts that smelled faintly of his perfume, jeans that hugged his legs perfectly. I mimicked his gestures, his posture, his smile. And then, I caught myself practicing in the mirror when no one was watching, rehearsing interactions as if I were him, imagining scenarios with his friends, with him, the real him. The line between me and him began to blur. Weeks passed. I became more confident, more comfortable in the stolen identity. I ventured outside, dressed in his clothes, blending into his world seamlessly. People treated me like him. They laughed with me, shared secrets, leaned in as if I were the person they trusted. And yet, every time I looked in the mirror, the guilt returned. One night, I caught myself whispering, "I'm not him. I'm me. I'm me. I'm me." But even as I said it, I realized I felt more like him than ever. My desires, my confidence, my presence, they had shifted subtly, aligning with the person whose body I now inhabited. The tension reached its peak when he appeared. The real him. Standing in my doorway, shocked eyes wide. What happened to you?" he asked, voice trembling between fear and confusion. I froze. The words caught in my throat. I could tell him the truth, or I could hide. Part of me wanted to disappear, vanish into the night, never confront the consequences of the curse. But another part, the part that had spent weeks exploring, experimenting, living as him, knew hiding wasn't an option. I don't know how to explain, I stammered. Something happened. I became you. He blinked, disbelief etched on his face. Became me? What do you mean? The guilt and fear surged. My hands shook as I reached for the charm I had discarded weeks ago. It's a curse, a witch. I didn't mean. I never. My voice cracked, tears threatening to fall. He stepped closer, scanning my face, the identical features. This is impossible, he whispered. You look exactly like me. And in that moment, everything crystallized. I had two choices. I could fight it, try to reclaim my original self, and risk losing the connection I had developed with his life. Or I could embrace it, fully, and explore the world from this new perspective, accepting that my identity had shifted irreversibly. The decision wasn't easy. I spent hours in my room, staring into the mirror, tracing the contours of my face, feeling the unfamiliar strength in my legs, the subtle sway in my hips. I thought about my feelings for him, the obsession that had grown as I became him, and the strange empowerment of inhabiting the person I had loved. Finally, I whispered, softly, with trembling conviction, I can't go back. I don't want to. It was terrifying, and exhilarating. The guilt, the fear, the exhilaration, they all collided inside me. But a strange sense of peace followed. I had embraced the impossible. I had survived the curse. And in doing so, I had discovered a new version of myself. One that blended my heart with the life of the boy I had loved from afar. From that day on, I fully explored the world as him. I navigated his friendships, his routines, his life, and discovered the freedom and thrill of living in this new identity. I learned to balance guilt with empowerment, curiosity with respect, and desire with caution. Every day became a lesson in self-discovery, every mirror a reminder of both loss and liberation. And slowly, the world adjusted too. His friends, careful at first, began to accept me, not knowing the full truth, but sensing the authenticity in my actions, the confidence in my presence. Even he, the real him, eventually smiled, a bittersweet acknowledgement of what had become inevitable. That I had transformed completely, body and soul, into his twin. The witch's curse, terrifying as it had been, became the catalyst for the most profound journey of self-discovery I had ever experienced. I learned what it meant to inhabit a life not my own, to feel every sensation, every emotion, every thrill of being someone else, and to find pieces of myself in that impossible reflection. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see more than just his face. I see courage. I see curiosity. I see the power of transformation, the thrill of the unknown, and the undeniable truth that identity is far more fluid, far more magical, than I ever imagined. And in that reflection, I whisper softly, I am both. I am me, and I am him. And I choose this life, this impossible, beautiful, extraordinary life. The first morning after the transformation was surreal. I woke up, muscles stiff, mind racing, and my reflection, his reflection, stared back at me. I blinked, touched my face, my chest, my arms, everything felt real. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move. I felt trapped inside a life that wasn't mine. I tried to act normal. I got dressed in the clothes he would wear, jeans, a hoodie, but even those didn't feel right. The jeans hugged my legs in a way I wasn't used to, and my chest pressed awkwardly against the fabric. My reflection in the mirror made me dizzy. I whispered to myself, over and over, this isn't me. This isn't me. This isn't me. But the more I said it, the more a strange sensation crept in. A thrill, a curiosity I couldn't deny. My hands trembled as I ran them over his. No, my body. My heart raced with a mixture of panic and excitement. Going outside was worse. The streets, once familiar, now felt like a minefield. Every passerby seemed to notice something off. Their glances lingered, subtle but sharp, and I could feel every stare like a physical weight. I ducked into shops, avoided eye contact, and tried to blend in. But blending in wasn't easy when your entire identity has shifted overnight. At school, it became impossible. Teachers didn't recognize me. Friends whispered behind my back. Someone, my crush's best friend, stared a little too long. I wanted to run, to disappear, to curl up in the corner of a library and never show my face again. I felt dizzy with fear, anxiety, and embarrassment. Who are you? Someone asked, hesitating in the hallway. I froze, heart hammering. I couldn't say it. How do you explain that you've been transformed into someone else entirely? So I retreated. I locked myself in my room, desperate for answers. That's when the real exploration began. Alone, with no one to judge me, I began experimenting. I tried his clothes again, mimicked his posture, practiced his voice in front of the mirror. Every detail fascinated me, the way he walked, gestured, even the way his hair fell over his forehead. I started to inhabit the life of my crush in secret, learning how he moved, how he spoke, how he carried himself. The thrill was intoxicating. Every glance in the mirror reminded me of him, and yet, I was me. My thoughts, my memories, my emotions, they remained intact. It was as if two people lived in one body, each observing the other, each influencing the other in subtle ways. I tried speaking his name aloud, testing the sound, the resonance of his voice on my lips. My own voice wavered, higher and softer than I remembered, yet unmistakably his. I laughed softly, heart racing with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and something dangerously close to excitement. I began documenting everything in secret. Small notes about changes, observations about my movements, experiments with expressions, gestures, even habits. I tried walking down the street as him, observing reactions. Some people looked confused, some smiled, some whispered. Each encounter sent a jolt through me, fear, yes, but also a growing thrill at living in his life, even briefly. And then came the temptation, the chance to interact with his friends. I knew his routines, his favorite spots, the people he trusted. One evening, I followed them to the cafe he frequented. My heart pounded as I approached, rehearsing everything I had learned. I sat at a table, trying to mimic his relaxed posture, laughing at jokes I had memorized from weeks of observation. It worked. At first, their eyes narrowed slightly in suspicion, but then they smiled. They treated me as him, unknowingly welcoming me into his life. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from the strange exhilaration of being accepted, even as an imposter. But guilt wasn't far behind. Every night, I returned to my room, staring into the mirror, questioning my actions. I'm not him, I whispered. I can't take over his life. I can't. Yet the thrill lingered, the curiosity persisted. I had discovered a new side of myself, bold, daring, confident, even seductive in ways I never imagined. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. I experimented further. Clothes, gestures, even practicing social interactions in his circle. Each experiment blurred the line between my identity and his. The person in the mirror became both him and me, a hybrid, a strange reflection of obsession and self-discovery. The first real confrontation came unexpectedly. I ran into someone who knew the real him well, his best friend. Their eyes widened as they looked at me. You look just like him," they stammered. I froze. Panic surged, but I forced a casual smile. "Yeah, it's weird, huh?" Their nod was cautious, unsure, but they didn't press. Relief washed over me, but also a sharp pang of fear. How long before someone realized the truth? How long before the consequences of the curse caught up with me? By the end of part 2, I had learned 2 things. First, that living in his body, exploring his life, was intoxicating, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. Second, that the line between obsession, desire, and self-discovery was thinning. I was becoming more confident, more daring, and yet more conflicted than ever. I stared into the mirror one night, candlelight reflecting in my eyes. I touched my face and whispered, voice trembling, "I can't go back. And maybe I don't want to." The curse had taken everything familiar and replaced it with the impossible. But in doing so, it had opened a door to something thrilling, frightening, and deeply transformative. Part 2 ends here, with the protagonist fully exploring the consequences of the curse, experimenting with identity, and teetering on the edge between fear, guilt, and the intoxicating thrill of inhabiting their crush's life. The days after my private experiments grew more intense. I had become comfortable in the borrowed life of my crush, learning his habits, his gestures, his quirks. But comfort had a dangerous twin: exposure. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me, friends, classmates, strangers, and each glance made my stomach knot. The real test arrived without warning. It was a school project, a group presentation that required teamwork and public speaking. My crush's friends were in my group. Panic rose like a tidal wave in my chest. I had spent weeks imitating him, observing him, learning his mannerisms, but performing in front of the people who actually knew him? The stakes were terrifying. I arrived early, sitting in a corner, rehearsing every word, every gesture, every smile I had studied. When they arrived, eyes widened. "You look just like him," his best friend said, voice hesitant, a mix of curiosity and shock. I forced a smile, heart pounding. "Yeah, I know, it's weird." The presentation began. My hands trembled slightly, my legs felt foreign under the desk, but once I spoke, something surprising happened. Words flowed. My tone, my expressions, my timing, everything aligned. They nodded, laughed at the right moments, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I felt like I was him. But then came the whisper. Someone outside the group noticed my unfamiliar energy, the slight difference in my reactions. A student whispered, "Isn't he acting weird?" My throat went dry. Fear and guilt collided in my chest. I could feel my identity, the real me, struggling to stay in control, while the borrowed confidence of my crush surged through me. After the presentation, the confrontation came. I found myself alone in the hallway with the real him. His eyes widened, disbelief and confusion written across his face. "What? How is this even possible?" he asked, voice trembling. I froze. Every instinct screamed to run, hide, deny, escape. But the part of me that had lived in his life, explored his world, grown confident in his skin, pushed forward. I don't know how to explain," I said, voice cracking. "The witch, the charm, it turned me into you. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want it. But it happened." He stepped closer, studying my face as if trying to find cracks in reality. You look exactly like me. Every detail. But you aren't me." The truth of the curse hit us both in silence. My chest tightened. Every second stretched into an eternity. I could feel the fear, the guilt, and the undeniable thrill of inhabiting this impossible identity. That night, I retreated to my room, staring into the mirror. Candlelight flickered across my face, revealing features I had once adored from afar and now inhabited fully. My thoughts raced. Should I try to reverse it? Seek the witch? Live in hiding forever? Or accept it? The choice felt monumental. Accepting it meant embracing a life that was never mine, inhabiting the person I had loved secretly, exploring a world I had only dreamed about. Rejecting it meant returning to my old life, leaving behind the power, the thrill, the strange confidence I had discovered. I touched my face, fingers tracing the sharp jaw softened by subtle curves, the smooth skin I had admired for months, the lips I had once imagined kissing in my dreams. I whispered, voice trembling but firm. I choose this. I choose to live this life. To explore it. To be me, in this body. The days that followed were both liberating and terrifying. I embraced the social world of my crush fully, attending events, interacting with his friends, and even helping him with things he had once done. Every interaction was a test, every glance a challenge, but with each passing moment, I grew bolder. There were missteps, of course. Friends questioned small differences in behavior. Strangers noticed inconsistencies. But the more I embraced the identity, the more authentic it felt. Confidence replaced fear. Curiosity replaced guilt. And slowly, the impossible began to feel natural. Then came the final confrontation with him. We sat across from each other in a quiet park, the air thick with tension and rain-soaked leaves. "You've really embraced it," he said softly, almost in awe. I nodded. "I have. I didn't ask for this, but I've learned a lot about myself. About confidence, about courage, about desire. And I don't want to go back." He studied me, eyes searching, then finally smiled. I guess some things can't be undone. But you've grown. You're incredible." Tears pricked my eyes. Acceptance, from him, from the world, from myself, flooded through me. The curse hadn't just transformed my body. It had transformed my mind, my emotions, my sense of self. I had stepped into the impossible and emerged stronger, bolder, and fully alive. By the end of part 3, I realized the witch's curse was both a prison and a gift. It had forced me to confront my deepest desires, my fears, my boundaries, and in doing so, it had revealed a version of me I never knew existed. I had chosen not just to survive, but to thrive, inhabiting a life that terrified and exhilarated me in equal measure. Standing in the mirror that night, fingers tracing the contours of my face, I whispered with quiet conviction. I am me. I am him. I am whoever I choose to be. And this is my life now. Part 3 ends with full confrontation, acceptance of the curse, and the pivotal choice to embrace the new identity, setting the stage for a final resolution and reflective ending in Part 4, where empowerment and self-discovery are fully realized.